Hi, friends. It's Wednesday, 6 o'clock again. So it's time for another live. And today we're going to be talking about the dark night of the soul. So, the dark night of the soul is a profound spiritual concept that describes a period of intense inner turmoil and transformation, often marked by feelings of despair, confusion, and isolation. I call it an extensive tower moment. If you're familiar with tarot, that's in reference to tarot. This experience is thought to be part of the spiritual awakening process and serves as a catalyst for deep personal and spiritual growth. So, like a tower moment, is something that shakes our life from the core. So, it's not fun. But on the other side of it is greatness, is happiness, is clarity, is lightness. So a tower moment can be anything. Can be a divorce, can be being fired from a job. It could be moving from house to house. I mean, it's something that is uncomfortable that will shake us up. And I make the analogy of cleaning out your closet. You know, when you look at your closet and it's a mess and you have a lot of clothes that you don't use anymore, so you take everything out and all of a sudden you're like, what have I done? Because it's chaos, right? But as you work through and you go through your piles, you know, the giveaway, the trash and the keep, and then you put everything else in order, is like, ah, you're so glad you did, right? So it's something like that. Of course, it's much more profound than cleaning out your closet, but it's something like that. It's something that, while it's happening, is very uncomfortable, is chaotic. Sometimes you just want to just walk away and forget all of it. But when you're done, you're so happy you did it. Okay. The term Dark Night of the Soul originates from the 16th century poem by San John the Cross. He was a Spanish mystic who used to describe the soul's journey towards union with the divine. Now, some key aspects of the dark night of the soul are emotional and spiritual despair. During the dark night of the soul, individuals often feel disconnected from their sense of purpose and spiritual path, and even their inner self. All right. They may experience a profound sense of loss or emptiness, as if the joy and meaning they once felt in their life has vanished. This can be unsettling and painful, but it is essential to understand that this phase is not permanent, rather, it's a transitional period. Also, we have the ego death, and this is one of those terms that now people are, just throwing out there. So the experience is often characterized by a breakdown of the ego or the self that we have built based on external achievements, identities, and societal expectations. I'm sorry, those things that society expects us to be or to do, right? This dissolution can lead to feelings of disorientation and fear, but is necessary for spiritual growth. In this process, the old self is stripped away to make room for a more authentic, spiritually aligned version of yourself. The dark night, it's time for confronting our once shadow. And like I've said before, that's the part of ourselves that we typically avoid to see, that we suppress or want to deny. This deep introspection is an opportunity to face fears, unresolved traumas, and limiting beliefs. Through this purification, the soul can emerge clearer and stronger, more in tune with your higher purpose. One of the major lessons of the Dark Night is learning to let go. Surrender. Just surrender. This might involve releasing attachments to material success, relationships, or even spiritual ideals. So is that really toxic job that pays you a lot of money, but that it's toxic to you, that you feel bad every day because it's not aligned with your values, because your company may be scamming people and you know it, just or the culture itself is so toxic. Is that bad relationship that you have fallen out of love with a person, or the person has become like really abusive in many different ways, or even spiritual ideas or religious ideas that you held close to your heart at one time in your life, but all of a sudden they don't resonate with you anymore. So it's a time of surrendering to the unknown and trusting the process, which often leads to profound insights and breakthrough once the storm passes. Okay. After enduring the dark night, people often experience a renewed sense of spiritual clarity and peace. They may feel more connected to their inner self, their spiritual guides, and the divine. The rebirth can bring a heightened awareness of the interconnectedness of all things and deeper sense of purpose and alignment with their true calling. So how can we navigate a dark night of the soul? You got to be patient. That is key. Patient and trust. The dark night can feel like a never-ending ordeal, like a never-ending story, like we're on a loop of bad things that are happening to us and everything is kind of breaking away. But it's important to trust that this is a necessary part of your journey. Patience is key as the process unfolds in its own time. Okay. Meditation, journaling, any spiritual practice can provide solace and insight during this time. These practices help people connect with their higher self, gain clarity, and stay grounded amidst the inner chaos. Engaging in shadow work is essential. It involves diving into past wounds, traumas, and negative beliefs to heal and release. Working with a coach or a spiritual guide can be very good and invaluable during this process. Although the dark night can feel isolating, seeking support from a spiritual community or trusted mentors can offer guidance and perspective. Being in the presence of others who have experienced similar awakening processes can be very encouraging and make you feel less isolated. Instead, when you're in the middle, and this is hard, but when you are in the middle of it, instead of seeing this period as purely negative, reframe it, shift the way that you look at it and the way that you think about it as a profound opportunity for growth. And this can ease the journey. So the breakdown is often a prelude to breakthrough. So Yari, what about timing? The timing in the dark night of the soul is highly individual and often unpredictable. It can be triggered by significant life events or arise seemingly out of nowhere. Some common triggers include major life transitions, for example, such events such as the loss of a loved one, not just somebody that was a distant cousin that you really didn't know, or somebody that kind of care, but somebody that was really close to you. Divorce, illness, the end of a career, all of that can initiate the dark night, as these experiences often challenge the foundation of our identity and beliefs. Spiritual awakening can trigger a dark night of the soul. For some, that initial period of spiritual awakening can trigger that after a period of very rapid expansion, because that's like a life transition, right? When you start awakening and you have all this expansion, all this spiritual growth, and insight, there may be a deep sense of emptiness or disillusionment, which serves to dismantle the ego and refine the soul. Engaging in intensive spiritual and personal development practices, just like meditation or retreats or shadow work and healing journeys, can also activate and trigger a dark night of the soul, as old patterns and traumas are brought up to the surface for healing. Cosmic or astrological alignments. Some people believe that certain planetary transit or cosmic alignments, like a Saturn return or an eclipse, can influence a dark night of the soul. Now, these shifts may highlight deep karmic patterns that need to be resolved. Now, what I believe is that your natal chart can point, read by an experienced astrologer who's not me. That's not me. I can't do that. I know people that can do that, but that's not me. A very experienced astrologer who can read really well and go deep into your chart can probably pinpoint times in your life, because this can happen more than once, by the way, can pinpoint when a dark night of the soul may occur. Now, because planetary transits can impact us in a way to exploration and growth and even more awakening and more insight and more clarity, that can trigger a dark night of the soul. I don't think that the planets initiate it. I think what happens with the planets to us is what makes initiate the dark night of the soul. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. Is like the chicken and the egg, which one came first, right? Did the planetary transit impact made you have an dark night of the soul, or what you did with the planetary transit trigger the you're following? Now, the duration of the dark night varies. Some people experience it for weeks or months, while others, it may last years. Mine lasted like 15 years. It was brutal. But now on hindsight, I'm so glad it did. I'm a different person. I'm a completely different person. So it wasn't fun while it was happening, but I'm so glad it did. Okay. So it's important to remember that the dark night is not a fixed timeline, but a process that unfolds uniquely for each person. Now, let's talk about symptoms. The dark night can manifest with a range of symptoms, both emotional and physical. While these symptoms can be distressing, they are part of the soul healing process. Okay? So some emotional symptoms: deep sadness or despair, and in some people even clinical depression. One of the hallmarks of the dark night is an overwhelming sense of sadness or hopelessness, often without any clear external cause. The person may feel lost, isolated, or as if their life has lost meaning. Now, you can think about the dark night being on like a spectrum, right? Like ADHD or autism spectrum, right? And I'm not comparing the dark night with a mental health issue. It's just a good explanation, okay? Because that's something that people can relate to. So think about it as a spectrum. On one end is totally deep and depression and just feeling like you're gonna die every day. And on the other end, it's not happiness or like it's like nothing is happening. That's not a dark night of the soul, but it's discomfort in a way that you feel that some things in your life must change, but you want that change. You want to change the way you do things, you want to change the way you feel about things, you want to change. There's a big change that you want to make in your life, and that is going to bring a lot of discomfort. Okay, so for example, if you want to, for example, have a better diet, a healthier diet, okay, and you think that you drink too much soda, so you cut out the soda. That's an important change, but that's not a drastic change. That's not something that's going to uh, shake your core, okay? Now, if you feel that you are advocating for animals and you think that everything, that the way that animals are treated, and that you really want to nurture yourself with the earth and only the earth, and not have any chemicals or not have any pollutants in your food, and you want to change to a lifestyle of plant-based veganism, that's a life change. That's a completely life change that not only is going to, make you change the way that you shop, but the way that you cook, the way that you think about food. And I know because we went through that, my family and I went through that some years ago. We're not longer vegans, but we're very close to that. We're vegetarians, are very close to that. So that's a life change. That's a big life change. Stopping drinking soda is good for you. And depending on your level of, toxicity with the soda, it's going to make it more or less uncomfortable for you to leave that, but that's not a life change. Changing from a meat eater to a plant-based vegan, that's a life change. Okay, so think about it in those terms. It's a spectrum. Okay, not everybody's going to suffer in the same way, not everybody's going to have the same length, but it's going to be very uncomfortable. Okay, all right. So there's going to be an existential crisis. People often question everything they once believed in, like religious, spiritual, or moral beliefs, may suddenly feel hollow or irrelevant. This can lead to a profound identity crisis as the old self, falls away, and the new self, while the new self emerges. There may be a sense that nothing in life matters anymore. Goals that once brought excitement may now seem unimportant or superficial. The person may feel disconnected from their career, relationship, or spiritual practices. Also, during the dark night of the soul, there is often a withdrawal from social activities and relationships. The person may feel like no one understands what they're going through, leading to a sense of isolation. Now, spiritual practices that once brought you spiritual joy may feel empty or ineffective. The individual may feel cut off from the divine or their spiritual guides. So what I tell people to do in this case is switch something, okay? If you do guided meditation, do transcendental meditation, or do walking meditation, or do something else entirely. So you can change a part of the ritual or the practices that you do have, or just exchange them for something else, okay? And there's hundreds of thousands of spiritual practices that you can try on, so there's plenty. Now, some physical symptoms: fatigue and exhaustion. People leave tired, like exhausted, like it doesn't matter what you do or don't do, you're just tired all the time. Some people feel a lot of anxiety and restlessness. There's a lot of physical aches and pains that it's not related to injury or growing pains or any physical activity that you, well, I was moving, so now everything hurts. Well, yeah, of course. Also, changes in appetite or sleep patterns. So what can we do about it? While the dark night of the soul can feel overwhelming, there are steps that you can take to navigate through it and support your healing journey, because it is a healing journey. Everything is breaking down so you can reconstruct better. And that's what healing is all about. The key is to approach it with patience and acceptance and surrender. Okay? Surrender. Let go of the power struggle. Just let it go. All right? Knowing that this phase will eventually lead to greater sense of purpose and clarity. The most important thing to do during the dark night of the soul is to surrender to the experience. Fighting against it, against the pain, or trying to rush through the process is only going to prolong it. All right, so accept it, that this is a necessary part of your spiritual evolution, and trust that you will emerge stronger and more aligned with your true self. Prioritize rest and self-care. Just take care of yourself. Just love on yourself. This might mean giving yourself permission to take a break from work or responsibilities, or simply spending more time in nature, sleeping, or doing gentle activities. Not all day long, every day, but give yourself time to rest. Your body and your soul need time to integrate the intense changes that are occurring. So, use this time to do shadow work. Shadow work can trigger it, and shadow work can heal it. Shadow work is a powerful tool during this time, during a dark night of the soul, as it allows you to confront and heal unresolved traumas, limiting beliefs, and repressed emotions. Journaling, therapy, or working with a spiritual guide can help you dive deep into these areas. The dark night often signals that something in your life is no longer in alignment with your soul purpose. So reflect on those areas of your life that feel stagnant or unfulfilling, and consider whether it's time to let go of all patterns, relationships, or goals that no longer serve you. Now, I wanted to share with you because last night I had a great conversation with my inner circle. I have a private group. Those of you who have who are in my program know about this. Because you're in it, right? And we were talking about, one of my students asked me about a life purpose. How can we find out our life purpose? And people get stuck in that. Like, life purpose is a label that you get when you're born and don't change. And this is not correct. This is not true. Not true at all. When our spirit decides to born and incarnate, what they want to do is have a human experience. Okay. We all, 100% of us, every single one of us have two purposes that are exactly the same. And the only two purposes: to serve and to be happy. That's our purpose. That's what we came here to do, to serve and to be happy. All of us. Okay. Now, how is that going to look like? That's what's going to change from person to person. But that is also going to change throughout your life, depending on how old you are, your growth, your your circumstances. That is going to change. For example, I have a master's degree, and I went to school for one specific thing, right? And I did that for 10 years, about. And I had this job that I was at for like 7 years, and I absolutely loved and grew on it. And I loved, and I got really good at it. And it was what I went to school for. But it was so stressful. The impact of the responsibility of having children's lives literally in my hands, it became too much after 7 years, and I was completely burned out. And I decided that I did not want to do that ever again, and I never did. But I found another job that was related to my degree. And I did that for about 15 years. And I loved it. And I grew on it. And I got really good at it until I didn't love it anymore. And now I'm doing this. And I absolutely love it. And I'm flourishing. And I just love it. So you see, in my life, I've had very clear 3 different life purposes. But I was happy doing it. I was good at it. I was flourishing. I was growing in it. Okay. But it changed throughout my life as I grew, and I changed, and my circumstances changed. But I was always serving, and I was always happy. So the important thing, if you don't know what your purpose is to follow your joy. That's it. Follow your joy. Now, if you have a job that pays the bills, but you hate it, don't go and put in your resignation tomorrow. Don't do that, because that'll be dumb, right? Because we're here and we have to do 3D things. And in the 3D, we have to pay rent, and we have to pay the car note, and we have to eat, da 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 da, right? So don't do that. What you can do is you can have a plan and start taking steps. And you take little baby steps every day in your plan, so you can get out of that situation. Okay? Because you need to pay your bills. And that goes to a job that you don't like, that you hate, or a relationship that you have fallen off of love with a person. That goes for a house that you don't like anymore, or a neighborhood that you don't like anymore, or a country that you don't like anymore. Just take your little steps and have a plan to move to where your joy is. All right? Okay. Even though the dark night can feel like a time of spiritual dryness, seeking guidance from a mentor, spiritual teacher, or healer can be incredibly helpful. We can offer perspectives and reassurance and help you understand the deeper meanings of the experience. So please ask for help. That's not a sign of weakness at all. On the contrary, asking for help is a sign that you know your value, that you know that you're strong enough and that you're valuable enough to ask for help to go to a better place. So ask for help, please. While meditating may feel challenging during this time, practicing mindfulness can help you stay grounded. Okay. Focus on being fully present in each moment rather than getting caught up in fear or despair about the future. Simple mindfulness exercises, such as focusing on your breath or observing through your thoughts without judgment, can be very calming. Many spiritual traditions have written about the dark night of the soul. So, reading works by other mystics or spiritual teachers who have undergone similar experiences can provide comfort and a sense of understanding. While the dark night of the soul can feel isolating, sharing your experience with trusted friends or spiritual communities can provide support. Hearing from others who have gone through similar phases can help you feel less alone. Ultimately, the dark night of the soul is a period of transformation. It is clearing away what no longer serves you, so that you can step into a more authentic and spiritually aligned life. Trust that this experience is guiding you toward a greater connection with your higher self and the divine. The dark night of the soul is not just a time of despair. It is a journey of deep spiritual alchemy. It burns away all layers of the self, purifying the soul for a higher purpose. By surrendering to the process, embracing the shadow work, and finding solace in spiritual practices, people can emerge from this experience with renewed clarity, inner strength, and a profound connection to the spiritual path. The dark night of the soul is ultimately a powerful spiritual initiation that prepares individuals for a deeper relationship with the divine and a more authentic expression of their true self. While the experience may be painful, it is transformative, leading to an expanded consciousness and a higher state of being. Okay, my friends, this was a long one today. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions and want me to expand on any part of this topic of the dark night of the soul. Also, if there is something that very specific, you need to be specific, that you want me to cover in another live. Now, remember that I'm going to upload this video as soon as it's available to the group, to the Facebook group. But you are going to also be able to find it in my YouTube and TikTok accounts. So with that, I hope to see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for another live. Bye.